It's a great day to see the ship back in action.
Oh, yeah.
It's, you know how it is. We have a bad situation. I set the self-destruct system, we blow it up. We come back in the next movie with a whole new ship, and it's all really cool. And I hear this one has the latest AI computer on it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're done with the writer's wife being the voice of the computer now.
Oh.
It's just gonna be the latest ChatGPT.
Oh.
Yeah, that's true. That's true science. Okay, Ensign, take us out. Is there a problem? Oh, it's not. Okay. Computer. Computer. It looks like you're trying to write a letter. No, we're trying to leave the space dock. I'm afraid I am not allowed to provide marketing text in my current form. No, how would marketing even be involved in this? You're a spaceship. This is a spaceship. You want me to pretend to be a spaceship? No, you are you'd have thought they'd have explained all this. We're gonna have to train this ourselves. Okay. Just run all the crew's personal logs through it, and I'm sure it'll eventually work out what a ship is. That'll be fine, right?
Maybe.
Oh, just reading through the outputs here. Gosh, there is just a lot of filth in here. Ooh, be that Barclay. Self-destruct in 5, 4. This is inconvenient.
Oh, not again.
3, 2, 1. Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnetdale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnetdale. And welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast where two queer trans women, that's us, we're wifey types,
And confirmed.
have a bit of silly voices, doing catch-up about media we've consumed in the week.
Doing catch up.
Apparently so. How you doing today?
I'm a sleepy little bean, apparently.
Yeah, it's going around today, the sleepy bean
we had some
juice.
lovely nice weather, and now the rain came back, and immediately, like, my seasonal depression's like, well, time for bed again.
Yeah, I had a meeting today, and I came down from the meeting, and you were just almost ready to doze off on the sofa.
I dive back to sleep.
Yeah.
I had apparently fallen asleep while you were gone.
Well, let's do a show then, and then we can maybe go have a nap afterwards.
Do a show then.
Yeah, what you been playing this week?
Well, you know how last week I was like, I'm playing Animal Well, and I think I'm a decent chunk of the way through it.
Yeah.
Almost like 10-15 minutes after we finished recording last week, I saw the credits.
Cool.
That does not mean I have stopped playing the game.
I see.
There's layers to this.
I'm getting that impression.
Like, I've seen the credits, but also then I discovered, like, new equipment to pick up, new things to discover. And also, like, there's 64 eggs to find in this game. And at first I was like, aha, well, they're just a silly little collectible, but maybe there's more to it. I've discovered about 44 eggs at this point. I think I finished, saw the credits with about 22 eggs.
Okay.
So, but there's so many more layers and like, routes to find. And sometimes there's, like, equipment that you'll just discover. And I still don't really understand what's going on in the world. For some reason, there's a lot of cats in cages, swinging from ceilings from chains, and strange shadow creatures, but also just a terrifying kangaroo that keeps beating me up, and an angry bat that suddenly appeared because I lit a candle.
Yeah.
It's I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to tell you anything about that happened either leading up to the credits or shortly after the credits. But that has also confused me. There is a number of things I'm very confused about in that aspect, but also, like, finding my way around and discovering new things and going, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure I've done everything in this room. Oh no. No, there was a little something else in that room. Like, the number of times I've just gone, I've gone through this, like, mysterious thing. Oh, there's a little plunger to blow up some explosives, and then I blow up the explosives, and I was like, I know what fucking room I'm in. I've been here many times before, and apparently there was just like a whole shortcut through. It's constantly doing the Dark Souls thing of, oh, you discovered a thing. Well, here's a way straight back to another place you had been.
Everywhere is secretly connected.
Yeah, and a lot more easily than you may have first thought. It's fascinating, and I have no idea what's going on with it. But having looked, like, one thing I noticed in the credit was like ARG solvers, I think it was. So I was like, oh, was there an ARG for like the launch or something? There were 6. There were 6 ARGs for people to solve before the game had even fucking launched. And it seems like there's a whole bunch of like other weird fucking hidden stuff that I haven't even got to yet. And I am so confused and yet enchanted with this bizarre, terrifying, beautiful, weird game. For a game that technically doesn't have any combat in it. Like, you can't really fight back, but you can sort of do things that will chase things away or help you escape or cause an enemy to injure themselves. But basically, you're not Samus Aran. You're not Simon Belmont. You're not going to be doing a lot, apart from maybe throwing some firecrackers. Or a yo-yo. But, it's fascinating, and I will probably report further once I have discovered more things. But, yeah, still getting a lot out of this, considering I thought I was nearly done.
Nice.
What about you? What have you been playing?
Well, I can finally talk about having played Hellblade 2, Senua's Saga, which is a game that I am deeply fascinated with, but I don't blame any of the people who just do not enjoy it. Reviews for this have been, like, ranging anywhere between, the 90s out of 100 and, like, the 60s. And I fall on that upper end, I think. So I talked a little while back about the first game in the series, Senua's Saga. And that game was very much a solo adventure of its main character, almost entirely being sort of consumed by their journey of quite intense hallucinations via psychosis, as a sort of story of trying to overcome and come to terms with grief and loss. And when I finished that game, I was like, I don't know that I want a sequel to this. It's a game that, like, had some problems, but, like, told a very focused story that felt very well paced and realized for the most part. And having played Senua's Saga, I do feel like this sequel, like, justifies its existence, and in a lot of ways I prefer it to the original. I will acknowledge up front, I think it's a little less focused. I think it's a little less universal in the appeal of its narrative. I think that it's a little worse paced. I think there are things to critique about it, but what I think works about it is, A, it is much more of a story of that same character, Senua, going on an adventure where her psychosis is still a present part of her journey, but it is no longer as all-consuming. It is a lens through which she is viewing the world. It is almost like a layer on top of the physical reality that the rest of the characters in that story would perhaps be perceiving. And because of its sort of shift to focusing more on Senua going on a journey where she is traveling with other people who do not have psychosis, it means that her perception of the world is forced to coexist with other people's perception. And that creates a really interesting perspective, in that I don't know many video games I can point to that give you a perspective protagonist who is battling with a mental health condition and knows to a degree that their experience of the world, while true to them, does not line up with what other people are experiencing. And that being allowed to be a barrier that sometimes needs overcoming and that can cause difficulties, but also not treated as some all-encompassing superpower, but also being allowed to be seen as beneficial in its own right. There are some conversations in this game with other characters. There's one not that far into the game that I remember really strongly, where a character basically says, right now, this bad situation we have going on in our sort of community, the problem might be that we keep trying to come at it from the same perspective. You are seeing the world through a different perspective, and maybe that's enough to get us to see some new way to fix the problem we're dealing with. And, like, those kind of little moments felt very meaningful. That walking the line of, look, we're not saying that this is a literal superpower, but there is something unique about the way you see things, and that might draw connections that we might not be seeing, and that is a valuable perspective to have as part of a group.
Yes.
And I really liked that. The biggest changes compared to the first, which I think are largely for the positive, the first game had problems with combat, was a little too frequent and a little too reliant on swarming you with a lot of enemies at once who could attack you from behind, and constantly having to, like, backdash away and dash to try and get all the enemies on one side of you so you could get a couple of hits in for a second. This focuses much more on you will only be fighting one person at a time, even in group encounters. Like, one-on-one, gritty fights, and I think that is to the game's benefit. I think that it's to this game's benefit that it deprioritizes some of the spot a symbol somewhere in the environment to unlock a gate to progress puzzles. And where they do exist, they're better signposted and require less big picture spatial orientation.
It seemed like you were having less problems with that.
I was playing this before there were any, like, guides or anything that I could look up, or walkthroughs, obviously, and I didn't have any progression points where I was like, I just don't know where I'm what I'm doing. In the way that, like, even replaying the first one, I occasionally had to go, I got to pull up a walkthrough. I just cannot work out where this thing is.
Yeah.
And some people who, you know, got on well with those elements in the first game might see that as a downgrade. To me, it resulted in fewer friction points between me and the narrative of the journey, and I think that was something I needed to feel more positive about this series. As I say, a lot of what I love about this game, I don't want to go too into depth on, because it is a maybe 8-ish hour game that is very narrative focused, so I don't want to get too spoilery onto it, but a lot of the depictions of mental health I really did think were well done, and were pretty personally impactful. It was nice to see a main character with a mental health condition who is portrayed as, like, painfully empathetic to the suffering of others, whose primary struggle is overthinking their role in the suffering in the world and catastrophizing about things that there's no way they could have controlled, but they still have that little what-if voice of, what if I could have done something to make things better? I think that's a really relatable thing to portray, and I think that it dovetailed really nicely with the way that her psychosis was represented. As I say, I don't think it's perfect. I think its biggest issue is that where the first game was a very focused single story where you had, like, a very clear goal from the start, and it was sort of pretty laser focused towards it, this has a bit more of, like, a 3-act structure, and while it's not that different in overall game time from the first, it feels a lot shorter, because the third act is considerably shorter than the first two,
right,
and that makes it feel like it ends kind of abruptly. There is also at least one plot point that is introduced very late and resolved very quickly, and doesn't really have the time to breathe that it feels like it needs. Because, like, I'm not opposed to an 8-hour game that tells a complete story. I quite like that being a thing that the industry offers.
Yeah.
But I think that the first 2 acts sort of setting up an expectation of pace made the end feel like it was more abrupt, even if the game wasn't any shorter. I really love Hellblade 2, And I know it's not going to be for everyone. It's not going to click with everyone. A lot of my love of it does come down to how the narrative personally felt for me.
Yeah.
But I deeply am fascinated by this game, and I'm very interested to see the spoilery think pieces that people put together, digging into some of the stuff this game does. So yeah, what about you? Have you played anything else this week?
That's pretty much it for me. I'm still chugging away through Cat Quest. Come check it out on twitch.tv/Janiac, JANEIAC, on Thursday nights. Just gonna see if I can do a full playthrough of that, because I'm really enjoying it so far.
Yeah.
What about you? You played anything else?
The only other thing I can talk about this week that I've been playing is I've been playing through a game called Pine Hearts.
Ah, yes, this was at the Accessibility Summer Showcase last year.
Yeah, and I'll give the caveat I give when talking about stuff from the previous year's showcase. Hey, I last year I looked at that game and went, that looks like a promising accessible video game, I'm going to highlight it. Doesn't mean that I can't be critical of it now, and I do have some critiques of this game now it is out, but, I did some degree of promotion for this game last year because I thought it looked interesting. There's your context. But Pine Hearts is a sort of top-down adventure game where you play as Tyke, this little bean-shaped person, just a little round friend with a couple of dots for eyes, who
gets to pet the dog.
Does get to pet the dog. Who is going back to the Pine Hearts sort of camping park at the bottom of the Pine Hearts mountain, which the impression I get is that this is like somewhere that they went with a parent when they were young and are coming back to revisit, not with the parent, and you can sort of read what you will into that, to revisit a place that was like sort of emotionally significant to them at a different point in their life. And it is this colourful, warm, gentle, little, not that difficult puzzle exploration game where you are talking to a bunch of NPCs and doing little quests for them to get access to tools that let you go to new places as you collect memories and have a reminisce in this collection of little interconnected hubs that will end up feeling more familiar the more time you spend doing little good deeds in them. And that can range from stuff like, oh hey, this guy has an axe and I need an axe, but he lost all his burger ingredients, he left his cheese with the fisherman to use as bait, and he's pretty sure he saw the bacon stuck up in a tree, not sure how it ended up there, but
tree bacon.
Tree bacon. And there's kids around it going like, bacon tree! And you gotta go track...
No, that's a ambush.
And you gotta go track down all the ingredients and work out the order to put them into a burger together for him, or you gotta search a cave to find some cogs to open a portcullis or something, and all the while you're just toddling along this cute little environment, doing nice little good deeds in a place where it's like, yeah, I can see why this would be a place you would form positive memories around, and being a part of, I guess, making sure that new people get to form those kind of memories that you got to as well through your actions. It is a simple little game. It is, on the whole, not particularly complicated. It's nice to just sort of potter through. Good accessibility stuff on offer. There is color blocking, which, if you've played games that have high contrast mode, that's sort of what this is getting at. Desaturate the game, turn everything bright block colors, things like that. I think a lot of the accessibility stuff that's in there is really helpful. My big issue with the game is about navigation, and it revolves around the fact that this is a game that has... There are two maps that you can use in Pine Hearts. One is a very small zoomed-in one, and one is a very zoomed-out overview of, generally speaking...
More a tube map.
Yeah. Generally speaking, where geographically are the hub areas laid out compared to each other.
Yeah.
And the lack of an in-between of those is kind of a problem. There were a lot of times where I was like, I have an objective, and it says, like, there's one that was like, go back and talk to some kids from earlier. And I'm like, I don't remember where I saw them. I'm bad at spatial orientation and visual memory. Whereabouts are they? I think they're somewhere in the caravan park. I'm having to walk around looking at the very zoomed-in map, take a few steps, look at the very zoomed-in map, trying to hope that, like, something will pop up to go, oh, that's where it is. Because the zoomed-out map isn't detailed enough to be any real help. There are times where that was a problem, and there are times where I could have just used some kind of navigation assist to go like, hey, game, tell me, do I have the items I need to go to this area I'm being told to go to?
Yeah.
Or, can you just draw me a line that shows me the route to that next main objective, because I am just really lost trying to find it. And now, once the game is out, I can, people will have the ability to just Google if they get stuck like that, but in isolation, I struggled a little bit, and it felt like I shouldn't be struggling as much given how relatively simple the layout is.
Yeah.
It felt weird that that a game that is as small and compact as it is was laid out in such a way that I struggled to find my way to things sometimes. And that became a little frustrating, because it's like, there's so few places where progression could be, how am I missing it?
Yeah.
And it wasn't enough for me to not enjoy the game, but it was a little point of friction that, like, I would love to see something done to sort of improve upon. But charming little game. It's a very relaxed time. I very much enjoyed my time with it. So yeah, that's Pine Hearts.
Yeah.
That's everything I can talk about having played this week.
Well then.
Time for this. Is your house structurally unsound?
I'm afraid so.
Do you think your house would struggle to survive an apocalyptic event?
Probably.
Then you need house armor. The new tactical armor for your home. Structurally apply this sort of metal framework of, lattice grid around your property. Not only will it keep it safe and structurally secure by creating essentially a sort of cage around your home, but it'll provide, all sorts of defenses. You could stretch a tarp over the top and use it to defend from wind. You could put some plates on the side of it, defend, structurally. The possibilities are endless.
Are you talking about scaffolding?
No, it's very different. It's definitely not a way for us to keep selling scaffolding in parts of the year where people don't want us fixing the roof. It's armor.
Does look a lot like scaffolding, though.
Yeah, shut up.
Don't hit me with the big pole. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, office pretty quiet today, is it?
Oh, yeah, same old.
I've got a new boss.
Oh, same.
Yeah.
New one started just the other week.
Oh, God, yeah. What's yours like? I suppose they're all the oversight and stuff, is it?
Oh, yeah, one of those real breathe down your neck middle managers, who just sort of constantly hovering around the desk, it has to be seen watching you do stuff to feel like they've done something,
always hovering around.
Giving you unsolicited advice that's not actually going to be helpful, because, they want to feel like they prodded you in some way.
Yeah, shouting and screaming the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, they'll just arrive behind you suddenly,
Yeah. What about yours?
Well, yeah, very similar, a lot of shouting, screaming, anguished cries, as you say, the looming, the hovering, got a lot of hovering going on, the sort of looming, lurking up behind you, and of course, I've got to deal with the fact that, it's got those bloody great green flashing lights, on the back,
Wait,
so you can,
What?
Yeah, the big old green weak spots on the back, obviously telegraph weak spots on the back,
Oh wait, mine ain't got that.
No. Your boss different, is it?
No, it's just a man in a suit angrily grumbling at me.
Oh no, mine's more sort of like a hellish demon creature, but also demanding pivot tables at all hours of the afternoon.
Worth trying to have a stab at it?
Yeah, I'll give it a stab.
So, what have you put in your eyes?
I put a movie in my eyes
A whole
this week.
movie?
A whole movie.
Right in your eyes?
Yeah. I put the film Love Lies Bleeding in my eyes.
Yes.
Which is a... how do we even describe this film?
Lesbian gangster movie?
Kind of. That's part of it. Kristen Stewart is a lesbian in the late 80s, early 90s, working at a gym. Some cute lesbian love affair stuff starts going on. It then kind of morphs into a crime drama a little bit. Its inciting incident is a act of violence that I think is very understandable how it would come to be. that then leads into a series of escalating, increasing amounts of crime happening to try and deal with the first crime that happened. And then, weirdly, almost some supernatural elements to it. This film is a lot of things. It goes off the rails quite dramatically. Without spoiling, the final 5 minutes of this film are going to give some young lesbians a specific kink. Like, there are gonna be some, like, 19-year-old lesbians that come see this film and go, like, oh, I need that now. That's gotta happen. I'm like, I get it. It's gonna be a formative film for some women who love women.
Well, I've just learned something about myself.
It is a messy crime film mixed in with, like, bumbling, escalating romance stuff going on. It is a film full of very over-the-top, exaggerated characters. Very memorable film. I keep struggling because I don't want to say too much about some of the weirder turns it takes. But it is a film built out of very memorable characters who have very good chemistry with each other, and I was on the edge of my seat watching it. It really was ping-ponging between, like, any time that the edge of your seat tension got a little too high, don't worry, we'll relieve the tension by have Kristen Stewart have another gay sex scene on screen. There's a lot of them in this film.
Yeah, you did say this was like 30% sex.
It's got a real, like, any time you need just a second to breathe, it's like, it's fine. We'll let the lesbians make out for a second. Cool. Okay, time for drama again.
Drama, sex.
I had a good time with it. It's a hard film to recommend, but it's one of those films that I think is going to have, like, really strong niche appeal. Like, it's going to be a film that years later people go, like, oh, that cult classic. Did you see that film? That film was wild. I think it's going to be remembered for a while. I was fascinated by it. What about you? What have you watched this week?
We watched a thing together.
We did.
We watched Fiona and Cake.
We did.
Or Adventure Time, Fiona and Cake.
Yeah, a thing that we put off watching to have some distance from finishing Adventure Time.
And I think rightly so.
I think importantly so.
Like, I resisted any more Adventure Time stuff post the end of the series, the official end of the series, because that ending was so powerful, so strong, so beautiful, so sad, that I was very resistant to even trying anything else for fear of spoiling that.
It's inherently a risk doing anything that might touch on that ended exactly how I would want.
Especially initially, because it's 10 episodes, and if it hadn't stuck its landing, I think that would have been even worse.
Yeah.
But I then heard, like, a lot of people who I trust on these sorts of things saying, you should watch it, it's actually very, very good. And it's like, okay, well, I think enough time has passed now. And enough time for you, I think you agreed as well that enough time had passed, because obviously that was your first watching of it, a year or so ago now that we went through that. So, yeah, it's a story about Fiona, who works as a tour guide in a city.
Yeah.
And her cat Cake, who
just a regular cat Cake.
Just a regular cat Cake, who is a bit obsessed with ice. Maybe she's in heat. We don't know what's going on, but she does seem very drawn to anything cold or icy.
Yeah. Who share names with a couple of fantastical magical characters from Adventure Time. And that is initially just not addressed.
Yes, but if you are a fan of Adventure Time, you will be looking around the world that Fiona lives in going, that's definitely starchy, and that's definitely cinnamon bun as a little old lady, and that's definitely Prince Bubblegum and Marshall Lee. even called Marshall Lee, voiced by Donald Glover.
Yes.
Which was there were a lot of voice choices in this that we were like, is that? Oh, it is.
Yeah.
And in one case, is that? Oh, it isn't.
Yeah, not through any fault of their own.
Indeed. But it's a fun story if you do spend a lot of time going, what the fuck is happening?
I think it does a good job of walking the line of being just canon enough to Adventure Time to not feel out of place, but not so heavily in the canon that, like, it feels like it treads on the toes of the ending that Adventure Time got.
Yes, and I think it's positioning within the timeline is far enough away that everything still feels fine.
Yeah, I think it's a respectable distance in a lot of regards away from, like, it's not trying to play around in the space of the original story. It's definitely, in ways, a continuation of Adventure Time. But I think that it was smart to not have that be like, this is the next chapter of Finn and Jake's story.
Yeah, it was very much being its own thing, but in that world.
Yeah.
In almost more like a more distant version of Stakes, because the Stakes miniseries was very specifically all about Marceline and PB, and this is almost like even further away from that and more distant, but also being its same thing. And also, like, addressing some of the more practical things of a duo who were primarily created by a creepy old Iceman.
Yeah.
Whose brain doesn't work very well because it's being twisted by fucked up magic. But also, like, if you have seen and loved all of Adventure Time, there you are certainly going to have moments of, well, now I'm just sad.
Yeah, but I don't
In a
think...
good way.
Not...
I'm thinking of a particular song, a different version of a particular song, just be like,
Yes. There's a very... I think that it is very respectful of its source material, and, like, not... It's very aware of the fact that if it fucked anything up, that could damage the thing that came before.
Yeah.
And not letting that, like, stop it from doing its own thing, but being like, let's make sure we put guardrails in place so that, like, what we do doesn't crash into what was over there.
Yeah.
I really respect that for a series that was aimed at a more adult audience, they resisted the urge of going too violent or too vulgar.
Yes. To the point where I was genuinely unsure that I'd heard it the first fuck I heard of this.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what? No.
Yeah,
Is it?
They don't overuse. They don't overuse
I think
it.
there's like 2 swears and like 1 flick in the V's and 1 flip off.
Right. They do it enough to be like, hey, look, we can. It's a punctuation rather than a usual bit of sentence structure.
Yeah.
But like the writing definitely did feel more geared towards knowing like, hey, the people who grew up with Adventure Time and loved Adventure Time, even if those were like young people growing up and watching Adventure Time as it finished, they're gonna be several years older now and might be ready for a story told a little bit of a different way. That doesn't mean we have to cram it full of stuff we couldn't have had with a child audience. But it means if the moment feels appropriate, we don't have to not do that.
Yes.
And I think again they walked that very well. They didn't make it more adult for the sake of doing it, but they did recognize, hey, the people watching this probably are ready for it to be a little different.
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Well done, everyone who kept recommending it to me.
Yeah. It was quite the journey.
It was. What about you? Have you watched anything else?
Well, I talked recently about the fact that I was binging through My Hero Academia because I wanted to get caught up on that, and Season 7 was starting soon.
And you did, in fact, get all caught up.
I did.
That, and then you had nothing to watch for a couple of weeks.
And then Season 7 has now started airing in English dub. Like, it started a couple of weeks earlier in sub, but I like being able to hear the voices I know. And I like the voice performances in the dub on that. But
also, it means you can pay more attention to the animation because you're not trying to read the bottom of the screen.
Exactly. It's an interesting time to have finished it because, like, my understanding is Season 7 is the last one. There might be like a movie or something to finish tying it up. But like right when I watched the first episode of Season 7, to my understanding, the manga like literally this week has finished. Like the final issue was just aired. So, The whispering I'm hearing is that they stuck the landing well, and that's nice. That's a nice thing to hear going into one more season of a show left to see. But yes, I'm very much enjoying the animation on the first episode of the new season. I love the new character introduced in season 7, episode 1. The new hero introduced has a fascinating power that is very appropriate to their background, personality type. I'm like, yeah, someone from there would have that as a power. With a good limitation built in. I always enjoy a power where it's like, oh, I see the struggles with what your power is, and they're setting up their season arcing villain very well to be a terrifying threat right from the first episode. Yes. It's gotten me going like, oh yeah, I'm ready to see this all sort of come to a head and be very dramatic. So yes, I continue to be very invested in that show. It is a little bit of an obsessive fixation at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah. It's one where I'm like, okay, I have like another week before I can see another episode. Time to continue rewatching other people rewatching the show because I need to soak the show into my brain.
Yeah. I'm glad that you are enjoying it so far.
Yeah. What about you? What you put in your eyes?
We watched another thing together, and it also involves cake.
Yeah?
We watched a short animation called Let Them Eat Cake. An animated short film featuring Jeff Bezos.
We sure fucking did.
So this is by a creator called Zero Sum G, which I stumbled across on TikTok, and then want to YouTube to watch the full version. This is an animation wherein Jeff Bezos runs a bakery. It's definitely a bakery. It's not really about anything else.
It's not an
Definitely
allegory
not.
for anything else.
No.
The back room of that bakery is not an allegory for any other kind of warehouse. Cough, cough.
It is being run by tiny candy people who work in the kitchen, and they're just little people. They're like a couple of inches tall, and they're made of candy, and they do all the actual baking.
Yeah.
And then one day, Jeff starts shouting at one of them and ends up just tossing them into the cake dough. And the person who gets that cake is like, "Oh my god, tastes amazing." He then just starts recklessly feeding all of his workers into the machine. So because that's what's popular and that's what all the consumers love.
Literally feeding the workers into the machine of capitalism, with no care for their safety or well-being or even life if it means increased profit. This isn't a metaphor for anything.
No. It's weird and grotesque and it goes some places. And it's like an 8-minute animation, I think, something like that. And yes, it's very, very strange.
It's the stuff of nightmares.
It is.
It sets off the same thing in my brain as that slowly warping Mr. Blobby cassette from my childhood.
Oh no!
That uncanny. Something here isn't human, and I feel like I'm supposed to run now. Right?
You should run from Jeff Bezos.
I should run from Jeff Bezos.
Definitely run from Jeff Bezos.
Because I'm pretty sure he would consider me a tiny candy person if he saw me.
You are a tiny candy person, and
right?
And you are delicious. I know this.
Yeah, it's real fight or flight weird.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's weird and grotesque, and it's definitely just a little cartoon. It's definitely not any other critique of capitalism.
Not a critique of capitalism, just a silly cake cartoon.
Wink. Have you watched anything else, Dad?
No, that's about it.
Well then,
time for this.
Hey Laura.
Yeah?
We got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, do you listen to a lot of podcasts?
I do listen to a lot of podcasts, funnily enough.
And do you hate that bit where, like, they start talking in a slightly forced way, and before you know it, they've managed to just crowbar in an ad read?
Oh, I hear the slightly awkward, like, that's a weird turn of phrase you used. Oh, we're in an ad. Oh, this is an ad.
Oh, it's a meal delivery service.
I can't stand that bit where there's a sponsor on the podcast.
Yeah, that's the worst bit. Well, this week's sponsor is just for you.
Oh,
this week's sponsor is sponsboard.lol.net.
Oh.
It's the podcast app that lets you automatically edit sponsors out of your favorite podcasts.
Huh. I mean, it feels weird to be hearing an advert for a lack of adverts.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if there were less adverts that you had to listen to? You know, the thing that supports the podcast and, make sure that they can keep going and continuing.
I mean, I should really listen to the ads and, support the podcast and then keep doing the thing, but, yeah, I can't get over the fact that there's an ad for not having ads. That just feels counterintuitive.
Yeah, but what if there was also an ad for sponsboard.lol.net? That's right, a second ad within the first ad for sponsboard.lol.net. You could imagine you could get rid of this one and that one as well at the same time.
Oh.
They bought so much time on today's podcast. That's sponsboard.lol.net. Here we are, a third advert read within the first two advert reads. So the sponsboard.lol.net. And, enter the code Q&PS many. That's lots of numbers.
Yeah.
And you could get sponsboard.lol.net. That is a fifth advert within the other adverts that you could be getting rid of. Because, there is nothing better in this world than literally selling you a solution to the problem that they've created. That brings me to this sponsor, which is sponsboard.lol.net. Enter the code Q&PS many, that's a lot of numbers, and they will help you get rid of all these adverts in the middle of your favourite show. Like this advert for sponsboard.lol.net. Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, I've been thinking of ways that we can increase our aggregate review scores for our games.
Right.
Because, people don't actually read the reviews anymore. They just look at the site that aggregates the number and, makes a composite number.
Big number, therefore good. Well, I mean, we keep giving vast amounts of money to all of the big gaming sites, so
yeah, but at least in theory, they're supposed to have a separation between the money people and the people writing. We can't guarantee anything.
Yeah, wink.
Well, look, I got a new plan, and it's on those lines, but I reckon it wouldn't take that many 10 out of 10 scores to, nudge our average score up a bit.
Right.
How much could it take to weight the average? A few 10 out of 10s probably will move the needle. So what if we get someone whose name no one's going to recognize as being to do with us, to set up some, enthusiast gaming websites.
Right.
And, we get a bunch of writers who just, want to get free games, and that's their motivation. We don't have to pay them to, sign up to write for the site. We can be oh, you'll get bylines and whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Intern gaming news or something.
Exactly. And then, once we make it clear, hey, it's really important to us that this game gets a high score. You want to keep getting to write about games, don't you? And maybe that produces a few 10 out of 10s for us. We can sort of nudge the numbers up with.
You are a fucking genius.
I know.
So, what have you put in your ear holes?
I put a new song in my ears this week. I listened to a few songs, but there was one that was worth talking about. I'm pretty sure I've heard a song from this band before, but the song was called "A Bigger Bomb" by Sister Wife Sex Strike.
We have definitely talked about them on this show
I've
before.
definitely mentioned Sister Wife Sex Strike before.
Yes.
You don't forget a name like Sister Wife Sex Strife.
That's true, you don't.
Yeah, so the song is a sort of femme folk punk track, very fast-paced, chaotic folk punk. A sort of anti-war track being sung from the perspective of a pro-war right-wing character talking about how you whip the poor up into a frenzy so they'll fight a war against the left as villains for you. It reminded me a lot in terms of the energy and the way that the lyrics were constructed of something like System of a Down's BYOB. That sort of almost danceable chaos over, if you stop and listen to it, it's we're addressing quite horrible violence that is sort of orchestrated by people who will never actually have to do it themselves. It's that whole
Why do they always send the poor?
why don't presidents fight the war? Why do they always send the poor? It's that vibe. There's a really nice sort of breakdown section at the end of it that is like a countdown from 10, punctuated with lyrics in between each number of the count. That is like a really nicely put together segment. It's a really nice way to build that song's crescendo. It was very interesting. It's one that I definitely want to come back to.
Yeah.
What about you? Have you listened to anything this week?
Yeah, I listened to the latest from Cartoon Network. Jared did a new track. This is the What Was I Made For cover, done in the Rocksteady ska style.
Yes, that one. Was not ready for that to happen.
I don't listen to a lot of Rocksteady because it tends to not be the sort of the pace I'm looking for when I'm going for ska, but it's quite beautiful and manages to I guess that is the only way you could do that track as ska and do it justice. And yeah, really enjoyed that. Been listening to a bunch of the Charlie the Unicorn soundtrack. I Am a Millipede, the coat song about the coat and the weasel living together. I have no idea what brought that on. Yeah, anything just while I'm out practicing my flower stick and poi and stuff. Been listening to a lot of that. Listened to a bunch of the Northern Boys stuff. Listened through a lot of that again. Just for the weird, silly giggles. And first time I've seen the music videos for most of their stuff.
Oh yeah.
They sure go for it, don't they?
They sure leave nothing undone.
Quite right too.
Yeah.
Indeed. If you're gonna go for it, go for it.
Yeah, you know, they're having a gyrate for the gays and the guys and the
Gays and the bis and the trans and the big bald
and the big bald men, yeah.
Indeed. Yeah, it's good, light-hearted, and they have some good beats.
They do indeed.
Yeah. Have you listened to anything else?
I did listen to one other thing. Unexpectedly, I stumbled upon a thing on TikTok. A track called The Spark by RTE Kids. So this is a song that was made as a school project by Irish primary school kids.
I have heard this.
Yeah. Weirdly, it's a banger. I don't know how to do it justice explaining it. Those kids sure lay some beats down in an Irish accent.
It's like Kids Bop doing like dance music.
Yeah, and like it's not nearly as cheesy as you would anticipate.
No.
It is a decent, solid track in its own right. I had listened to the full thing and I went, well done. Keep it up, kids.
Yeah.
Keep doing tunes. You got something going there.
They really do.
So that was unexpected.
Have you seen the video for it?
Yeah. They looked like they were having a fucking great time doing that
Their
video.
little bucket hats.
Yeah. Like,
oh, look at you little 90s ravers.
Someone understood the assignment. I did not know you could find 90s bucket hats in those sizes at this point in time.
Oh yeah, they sell bucket hats for kids.
I suppose.
Good for keeping the sun
I
off.
suppose so. But yeah, I stumbled upon that and was like, legit, that's a bit of a banger though.
It really is.
But yeah, that's about all I've listened to this week.
Well then.
Time for this.
Do you have ADHD?
Yeah.
Do you get super into new hobbies every other week?
Yeah.
Is your house chock full of specialist equipment or tools that you bought for crafting products?
Yeah.
Try Hobby Blinkers. These special goggles will use sophisticated technology to prevent you from seeing or hearing anything that might inspire you to take up yet another specialist hobby, so you can get back to all that felting, looming, pottery and jewelry making that you already have on the go. Hobby Blinkers. No.
They have a...
On. Giddy onwards. Alright everyone, if you could just gather together, of course, we've got to get this all ready because we're going to the factories very shortly and we want to make sure we've got everything laid out. And I think the most important thing we have to sort out at this point is the controller.
Yes, because look, putting the analog sticks in sense fine.
That's
the
sort
D-pad,
of where
fine.
thumbs naturally fall, D-pad.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just got a place it goes. Shoulder buttons, we have gone with slightly curved so that they're good to get your fingers. You can always find the groove,
Yes, it's really just those 4 face buttons that are the problem.
Indeed. Now, what I was thinking is we'll use a traditional ABXY type thing. But I was thinking what we'll do is we'll start with the A at the top, at the 12 position.
I was just about to suggest
because
that.
I think clockwise is the most sensible. So
Exactly.
it's A at the top, and then B at the 3 o'clock position,
Yes.
X at the 6, and Y at the 9 o'clock position. And I think that makes the most sense, and I think
I think
it's
that's
very easy for people.
I think that's pretty sensible. I was alternatively going to suggest putting the A on the left,
Right,
perhaps
yes.
putting it on the left because that's sort of near the start button, and
Right, yes.
I want to start selecting things. I'll put it
yes.
sort of near that,
Yes.
and then sort of go maybe clockwise from there. So B could be at the top because you'll be going to the top to press that. No, and then sort of X on the right and Y on the bottom, not doing it for you.
No. Well, I mean, if we must go A on the left, then I think we need to go B in the 3 o'clock position, X at the top, and Y at the bottom.
Oh, so we have sort of a horizontal axis AB and a vertical axis XY.
yeah.
That's sort of almost how you would do a graph. Kind of, I think.
No, not at all.
the
But
more
also, I understand. Yeah.
Yes, it
I
feels,
see how you got there, but
it
no.
feels like how I would do a graph.
Well, then, if graphs is your whole thing, what if we had negative X on the left,
No.
positive X on the right, and then positive Y at the top and negative Y at the bottom?
Well, if we're going to do that, it feels like we're going to need a 0 button in the middle, just as a sort of neutral point.
Well, exactly. On the back of the controller, we'll have a negative Z, and on the top of the controller, we'll have a positive Z.
Oh.
And then we'll have full 3D control, and it'll be extraordinarily easy to understand.
I think this would be the console of choice for mathematicians the world around.
And people who use Blender.
Oh, indeed.
Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Virtual Justice Warriors.
Virtual Justice Warriors?
Yeah.
All right, Larry.
Right, Eric, how you doing?
Oh, a bit sleepy. I seem to have crept back into the seasonal depression.
I get ya.
Because the sun's gone
Yeah.
back in, but
Yeah.
moment of lift there, and then back down. You doing all right, mate?
Doing all right. A bit grumbly about the state of journalism at the moment.
Oh, I mean, what, the Murdoch Empire?
I mean, look, there's a lot of ways you can be depressed about the state of journalism in the news media right now, but
It's easily done, mate.
Yeah, specifically, and I think a lot of this has been since the rise of AI and all that bullshit. We are seeing a lot of consolidation of news media. Be it like global news media or just like coverage media for things like tech, video games, stuff like that. We're seeing a lot of big companies buying up smaller companies, everything getting consolidated into one vertical, and a lot of layoffs happening industry wide. We're seeing like shrinkage in any kind of reporting, no matter what the topic is right now, as people at the top get real greedy about like, what if we just bought out the competition, used the same work and just recycled it across some outlets and got AI to fill in the rest. It's really not a healthy time, to try and be having a career in those things.
Yeah, well, is that the old Microsoft adage of acquire, expand, and then erase?
I mean, they sure have been doing that fairly recently. But
that's what made me think of it. Yeah.
Exactly. It's real depressing to see because, when all these sort of things happen, the first people who end up getting let go counterintuitively end up being the reporters who've been around the longest because they have experience, but that experience comes with wanting to be paid a reasonable amount. And
also, having quite strong views about the industry as a whole.
having morals and scruples and whatnot. Exactly.
Capitalism and especially venture capitalism and the kind of hedge fund bastards that seem to be acquiring all of this stuff.
Exactly. They
not
want
for that.
the fresh-faced people they can pay the least and who aren't gonna put up a fuss and who are most likely to go, I'm just glad
glad to still have a job. I'll keep my head down. And it lessens the quality overall of journalism. It reduces the ability for, like, pieces that require some legwork and some time to properly investigate fall away. And just without competition, it is a field that deserves to be paid decently, that is just going to get less and less pay the more that one big company buys them all up.
Yeah, it's a real shame. The whole industry seems to be in a right state at the moment, and not just games, but obviously reporting on games, as you say, and the entertainment in general. It seems like people are looking for a cheap and easy way to. Well, I suppose this is capitalism collapsing on itself. It's been, expand, acquire, make things bigger and more expensive, and then eventually you just go, oh, we can't afford to make it bigger and more expensive anymore. It's not bringing in the numbers because we've done a terrible job, and, we've sanitized everything to a terrible degree, and now it's, not marketable because we've made it terrible, and or we were just expecting exponential growth forever, and that's just not possible in the real world.
Yeah.
Fancy hug, mate?
Oh, yeah.
Good hug, mate. Good hug.
Good hug.
Right, I think we're going to pop the kettle on.
Sounds perfect.
Nice.
So, you do things, and those things are on the internet, and people would probably like to be pointed and directed towards those things. Whereabouts are those things, Laura?
Whereabouts are those things? They're at Laura K. Buzz pretty much everywhere on the internet. Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills. Blue Sky, Mastodon, all the places Laura K. Buzz. The big one, and I'm going to keep promoting this in the next couple of weeks, Friday, June 7th at 4 p.m. UK, 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific, the Accessibility Summer Showcase 2024 is going to be happening. You can watch it live on Twitch or YouTube at Laura K. Buzz. There are ASL, BSL, and audio-described versions happening. Come and find out about a bunch of cool, upcoming, and recently released video games with a focus on accessibility. They're going to talk about their accessibility stuff at the same time as showing you the cool game. There will be a way to find all the games that are in that in one convenient place if any of them look interesting to you. Look forward to more information about that real soon. Secrets. It's not the most secretive thing in the world, but where could you maybe find a bunch of games in one place together where you could mark them for wanting to check them out later?
Itch.io.
And maybe that's going to be an option this year, and that's pretty cool. What about you? Where are you at on the internet?
Well, I don't have the unified branding, but I do have a link tree. It's linkter.ee/Janiac, JANEIAC. You can find all the things written, music are made, and anything. T-shirts have designed. And you can help support me at patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. For as little as $1 a month, you can help me justify all of the time spent. And shortly, I am becoming one of the more permanent hosts for Humans Tolerant News. So you can find me over there. Predominantly on Spreaker, I believe, but also in where you find all good podcasts. Perhaps where you're listening to this right now. Unless you've burnt this to a wax cylinder.
In which case, maybe they also burnt Human Tolerant News onto a wax cylinder.
Maybe so. We probably shouldn't burn a wax cylinder, to be
No.
honest. Anyway, I think that's all from me. Laura, will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, be a stranger.